Hello everybody, HerbalNerp here, and I have a question for all of you watching. What is your favorite franchise? We all have one, whether it's video games or film. There's a franchise we all follow. Well, my favorite franchise is Halo, but my second favorite franchise is Plants vs. Zombies. Despite Plants vs. Zombies being my second favorite franchise, I haven't really played a lot of the games, but just the tower defenses. And let me tell you, Plants vs. Zombies 1 and 2 are timeless classics. And since PvZ2's mainline campaign being finished after 3 years from the game's launch, it was only time that a third installment would come, and in 2019 PvZ3 released with very mixed reactions. Some people loved it, others hated it. I didn't mind it and thought this would have been better as a spin-off game than being the third installment. Eventually, PopCap took the game down after 10 months and planned to remake it, taking people's feedback in mind. And in September of 2021, they revealed the remake, which got a lot more positive feedback but still was in need of work. And now they released the second beta of it in April, and well, not a lot has changed. This build of the game started to sour a lot of people's reception of PopCap. I've seen people take it to the extreme of wanting EA to kill the studio, which, that's just really awful thinking. You're wishing for people to lose their jobs because they aren't making what you want. So I decided to replay this beta again and give all my thoughts and feedback. The survey PopCap provides for the game is very empty and doesn't let you tell them much. So hopefully they will watch this video, as my thoughts and criticisms are in good intention. I want this game to succeed, and there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And just because it's still in beta doesn't mean this game is exempt from criticisms. This is the time to be constructively critical about the game. With all that being said, let's play through dragged out tutorials, squash up conehead trios, fight levels of nothing but basics, save a walnut, and cherry bomb our way into it. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the game, let's talk about the storyline first. Starting the game off, you are immediately greeted by Crazy Dave, who is for some reason just called Dave in this. Your house is under attack by zombies and have to fend them off. You and Crazy Dave head to his place to reboot Mo, who will accompany you in the levels and the story. After Mo analyzes a zombie, it is discovered this zombie invasion was conducted by Dr. Edgar George Zomboss, who also smothered Neighborville in zombie fog. Crazy Dave then, for some reason, makes a zombie taco, and then runs off after eating it. We meet Patrice Blazing from the comics, and she is Crazy Dave's niece. After a few levels, we find Crazy Dave, who can't speak English anymore after eating the zombie taco. So we find hot sauce to cure him. We decide the best course of action is to get other neighbors recruited, so we head to the campgrounds and meet Douglas Fur, Crazy Dave's cousin, who we tag along with until Walnut goes missing. We find Walnut's tracks to Mount Queso Grande and find him fine and dandy, but as it turns out, Crazy Dave was here too, and he was the one who was actually in trouble, as the zombies have captured him. And with all of this story, you're playing through levels with pre-picked plants and get introduced to mechanics, plants, and zombies. The characters in the game are pretty straightforward. Patrice is the commoner in the group, Crazy Dave as well, Crazy Dave. Mo helps the group push things forward, and Douglas is the comedic relief as well as being the embodiment of testosterone, and Walnut makes funny noises. Now, I've seen some people complain about the story being bare bones and empty, just saying the story is very minimal and things like that. And to that I say, I don't think the story is meant to be this enriching, compelling tale. The story is more so to give reason as to what you're doing and why you're doing it. Such as, there's a zombie invasion, we need to recruit neighbors over Neighborville. We head to campgrounds to recruit Douglas. Walnut goes missing. We head to Volcano. We find him. We learn Dave is captured. To be continued. Just giving you a reason as to going to the campsite or the volcano and fending off zombies, a way to get you to move into other environments to vary the gameplay and show off new mechanics, which with the mechanics, I have a lot of positives to say about. Now PvZ3's gameplay, just like the previous two games, is a tower defense, although there are some differences. Some I like, some I really dislike, which I'm saving all my major complaints for the end. To start off on the menu, you have the next level in the bottom right and the lives counter in the top left. You also have your missions in the bottom left, which require taco tickets. You get taco tickets for beating levels, and more on that later. In the levels, every plant's sun cost has went from intervals of 25 to intervals of 1. Personally, I don't like this, but really it doesn't make much of a difference. I would prefer it to be in the 25 sun meta, but then it'd be weird to see Sunflower costing 25 sun and Pea Shooter 75. More on that later. Lawnmowers have been replaced by Mo, who targets the first lane of zombies that gets to the house. People really dislike this change, but me, I actually like it. I like it because realistically in PvZ 1 and 2, it's really difficult to lose the game at all. Now that may be because I'm an epic gamer, but PvZ is a game made for everyone of varying skill, so I absolutely understand why people dislike Mo being the lawnmower. But I don't think there's anything wrong with getting smacked around a bit. I think this has to do more with how short every level is, which, more on that later. For PvZ3's mechanics, they have taken some from the first game and reimagined them into ways that allow for tons of possible varied levels. Take the riverbanks and campgrounds. It's a much more freeform version of the pool, with riverbanks being able to be placed on the lawn in seemingly any way. Take elevations and volcanoes, the freeform version of the rooftops. There's a lot that can be done with just these two mechanics because they aren't bound to a house. The respective ambushes are fantastic too. Water Surge moves every plant and zombie in the water, and can even introduce lily pads. Imagine if other things than just lily pads can be introduced from Water Surges, like plants and zombies. Volcanic Blast temporarily makes spots unplantable, making the player have to adapt to scenarios the ambush puts them in. Then you have the two specials in the game that play off the volcano's mechanics. Rock and Roll Imp are the exact kinds of special zombies I love in PvZ games, ones that play with the area's mechanics. Bowler Zombie's a fine addition too. His projectile affects your defense based on the slopes of the volcano. Pretty cool. You also got Ducky Tube Zombies making a return, but with the ability to move faster in water but slower on land. Again, playing around with the area's mechanics. As for the plants, well, there's nothing new we haven't seen before. You got Sunflower, Pea Shooter, Bamboo Shoot, Squash, Bonk Choy, Lily Pads, Tingle Kelp, Cabbage Pult, Chili Bean, and Silver Sword. Who is the new guy? Alright, the general premise of the gameplay and mechanics are mostly pretty good. So what about the art style? The original PvZ3 got a lot of backlash for its art style. People absolutely hated it. Me? Yeah, I didn't like it either. It did grow on me eventually, although zombies were always atrocious, but the plants were very expressive. Some even had fantastic adaptations into 3D versus their 2D counterparts. So, how does the new art style hold up? Well, compared to the previous, it's a direct upgrade, and I like it. The art style has been confirmed to be set in stone, and I really have no problems with it. If this is what it's going to be, no issues for me. People have still complained about it, calling it corporate, lifeless. I don't agree with those sentiments, and I'm not going to get worked up over this art style. It's good in my books. Now as for the music... the music in this game is... it's so good. Now, it is music reused from the original PvZ3, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's very smart use of reusing assets. If you want to get technical, this game is reusing a lot of things from the original PvZ3, like the 3D models and such. Again, nothing wrong with that. So now that we talked about the general stuff and the good of the game, it's time to get into the problems with this game. So you know all of those things I said I would talk more on that later? Well, where do I even start? Do you know of these games called Homescapes or Gardenscapes or Lily's Garden? I don't know why I mentioned them, there's just something oddly familiar about them. Oh yeah, why are you copying shitty Match 3 mobile games? I'm pretty sure this was one of the biggest criticisms of the original PvZ3, that PopCap was copying other mobile games. PvZ 1 and 2 as mobile games stands out from the crowd not only because they are amazing classics, but because they also didn't fucking try to be like everyone else. When I look at PvZ 1 and 2, the last thing I think is, yeah, I would love for there to be a system that actively discourages me from playing the game and also hinders me from playing it. Why the fuck is there a live system in a PvZ game? Why would you add a system that prevents players from playing the game because they lose a couple of times? It goes against so many principles that the first game established. What's the point of the taco tickets? You get them after beating every level and you just spend them on the missions the moment you get them, and it all ends on time. What's the point of them? At least all of this isn't as bad as the levels. So if I were to describe this 50 levels experience to you in a few words, the words I would use would be short, boring, and hand-holding. Over half of the levels in PvZ3 are goddamn tutorials that handhold you and don't give you room to think for yourself. PvZ 1 and 2 didn't need to have 20 plus levels to teach you how to play the game. You know why? Because it's a pretty easy game to understand. I don't know how PopCap has managed to drag these tutorials longer than they need to. They straight up tell you what each plant does, what each zombie does, what each game element does, and how to use them. Let me figure it out by myself. It is so ridiculous to the point that an imp, a goddamn imp, is being put behind a tutorial. Why are you treating imps with such high regard for a tutorial? They aren't specials. You know how I could figure out what's so special about an imp? By playing the level myself and notice the very obvious fact they are faster and weaker than basics. And let's say that I was that to not notice the obvious. You know how else I could figure it out? The goddamn almanac. But wait, the almanac isn't in this game. Why is it not in the game? It is one of the most crucial parts of the tower defense games to be able to read up on the new zombie or plant I encounter or receive to see what's special about it and read a humorous quip. It was so jarring to me when there was a Gargantuar in level 25 because I would have expected a handheld tutorial to show me all about the Gargantuar, which I'm grateful that it didn't. What was weird about one of the tutorials is on level 26 we are taught about the riverbanks and how it slows down zombies. When we played like 5 or 6 levels with the riverbank by then, and I already figured out what it did by then, I guess yeah, thanks for reminding me. Water surges and volcanic blasts don't need tutorials either. I can see what they're doing just fine along with the very clear ambush warning. This was also a huge problem in the original PvZ3. In the betas, I just lost so much interest in the game because every time they would reset everyone's data, you had to go through an overly unnecessarily long and dragged out tutorial over and over and over and over. Do not repeat this same mistake, PopCap. Now getting to the main part of the levels, now that we pretty much wiped half of them off, they suck. Every single level is less than 3 minutes long. A level in PvZ1 lasts for usually around 10 to 20 minutes, while in PvZ2 usually lasts around 5 minutes. You are not doing a good thing when every level is below 5 minutes in length. So many times my layouts for every single level would be like 1 column of sun producers and 1 or 2 columns of attackers, when in the previous games I could have a filled up lawn of plants as I built it up throughout the level. There are also a lot of zombie spawns that are just straight up forcing you to use a specific plant, like Conehead Trio screaming at you to use Squash. I do like though how the zombies actually group up so you can see each of them rather than just stacking on top of each other like in the previous games. Not every level is boring though. There are 3 levels that I actually had fun with, and those are levels 38, 48, and 49, which are not only very late game levels in this beta, but are also labeled as hard levels. These hard levels are the only levels in the game that actually felt like proper levels. The levels are all just too fucking easy, and there's so many levels with pre-placed plants like, let me put those plants there. There's a bunch of campground and volcano levels that don't even utilize their mechanics at all either. What's the point? When a level does have some sort of threat, Grapes of Wrath just wipes them out because of how short the levels are timed when he becomes available, mostly destroying final waves. But Herpelnerp, this PvZ3 had a previous beta, why are there issues with the levels now? Because in the previous beta, the levels were actually creative and utilized the mechanics more. Like, there was one campgrounds level that had a riverbank circling around the middle of the lawn and would move plants around it. That's a really unique concept, but it's not here anymore. And even in the previous beta, you had levels that were too difficult, like 3x3 bucket spawns screaming at you to use power-ups and in general bucket spam. Not only that, but it was the first beta. People were still critical about it, and the consensus was, this is a step in the right direction. And things everyone wishes for, like choose your seeds, are still not present in the game. But Herpelnerp, there isn't enough plants to allow for choose your seeds. I don't care! Let me have the gratification that there will be choose your seed levels, because all we got are pre-picked plants and we don't even get to see what zombies are in the level. The original PvZ3 even got this right with letting you see the zombies. Why isn't it here? You can't even go back to play any of the levels either. So if there was a level you would like to revisit, too bad! And going back to the issue of there isn't enough plants to allow for choose your seeds, which there are by the way, we need to talk about the variety and progression in the game. In PvZ3, you are introduced to 5 zombies and 2 specials. The basics, the Imp, Rock and Roll Imp, Buller Zombie, and Gargantuar. You are also given 10 plants throughout 50 levels. Now, to put that into perspective to you, Plants vs. Zombies 1 is a total of 50 levels and introduces you to 25 zombies in total and 40 plants. Plants vs. Zombies 2 in 50 level introduces you to 16 zombies, this is excluding multiple Gargs and basics, and 19 plants. Do you see the problem here? One of the biggest reasons as to why the levels suck is because there is no variety in zombies, and 90% of the levels are just basic zombies and imps because there are only 2 specials that get shown off 43 levels into the game. Where's the specials for Neighborville and the campgrounds? You're remixing the mechanics of PvZ1, why not also do that for specials? Like, where's Pole Vaulter for a general purpose special? Newspaper Zombie? Any special from PvZ3? Snorkel is literally made for the riverbanks. He could ride along the water then just go straight to the house. The promo video showed off some cool specials. Bungee Zombie is returning and Landscaper who destroys the lawn. Not sure how Chomper is going to work with the current level length of PvZ3, considering he's one of the slowest plants to exist. But even those 2 being added in only equal up to 4 specials in total. That's the minimum for a world in PvZ2. But one of the most aggravating parts of the progression in the game is the shovel. You know, the very first tool item you get in PvZ1 and 2. Can you guess when you get the shovel in PvZ3? Alright, well, you unlock the shovel at level 16. Level 16. In PvZ1, you unlock the shovel in 1-4. In PvZ2, you unlock the shovel in day 3 of the tutorial. One of the most basic items that is used to remove a plant you don't want anymore is unlocked 16 levels into the game. The gameplay balance in PvZ3 sucks. A lot of the main game balance feels like it's change for the sake of change. For example, the 1 sun meta. Well, we can translate it to 25 sun meta with 1 equaling 25. Why not at that point make it the iconic 25 sun interval PvZ players have known? Why is Sunflower 25 sun? Pea-Shooter is 75? Why? Speaking of Pea-Shooter, he sucks in this a lot. Not only will you grow to hate him as he's your only attacker for most levels, but he deals less damage than in the previous games. In PvZ 1 and 2, it takes 10 Ps to kill a basic zombie, while here, it takes 14 Ps. Does he deal less damage? Do the basics have more health? I couldn't tell you. And then you have Cabbage Pult, who is OP as fucking this. Able to kill a basic in 4 hits when he used to kill them in 5, and with just one of them can solo a Conehead. He's supposed to be the Catapult counterpart of Pea-Shooter. Why does Pea-Shooter deal less damage and Catapult deals more than in the previous games? Cabbage Pult doesn't even work on elevated levels against imps. I can't tell if this is intentional or not. Lily Pad for some reason is free. At that point, why even bother with lily pads? Give them back their sunk cost. Don't just change the prices of plants for the sake of change. Bamboo shoots, I don't really know how to feel about. He costs the same as Pea-Shooter and can 2-shot basics, but you know, of course he has a long fire time. I think I'd rather him be pricier and deal splash, which I believe he did in the original PvZ3. And Silver Sword really sucks in this because he just doesn't have that many good levels with him. And also there's just the lack of garlic, which 3x3 attackers work off of to be at their peak. Then we have Grapes of Wrath. Why does it activate on its own? Wouldn't it be more beneficial and add more strategy to the game if Grapes of Wrath was something the player had to tap to activate, so they can decide to never use it because they don't want to, or can save it for when they get themselves into some real trouble? And then you have the power-ups. Only thing I think of when I look at the power-ups is, these could be plants. What was wrong with using something like the power-ups from the second game that you had to turn plants into power-ups? Again, this was something people severely disliked in the September beta and it hasn't changed. More interestingly, the build we are playing is from December of 2021, and we're playing this in April of 2022. So it makes me believe all these core issues that have been brought up months ago still hasn't changed at all. Well, clearly it hasn't when the game is still like this. And now we come to the last topic I want to discuss about, monetization. I really don't know how PopCap is going to make their money with this game. And yes, I mean PopCap, not EA. This is PopCap's game, not EA's. EA is just the publisher.
These two came out and it's a tablet mobile thing first, and like they're like, well, look at what EA did. I'm like, I think the most misconception is that EA forced any of that on us. Like, that was most of those choices, if anything, were all internal choices that were chosen long before we ever got bought out.
You gotta understand, it's 2022. PopCap isn't the same PopCap back in 2010. The PopCap that made PvZ 1 is different from the PopCap that made the main game of PvZ 2, which is different from the PopCap that works on modern PvZ 2 and PvZ 3, in which those are split into 2 teams. Back on topic, when you're copying these shitty Match 3 mobile games that blow the difficulty up to high proportions to get addicted players to spend money on extra turns and lives, that just doesn't work here. I would recommend that if you take my and everyone else's feedback with the game, making changes like choose your seeds and such, You should use the monetization method of PvZ2, and I'm talking about premium plants, not that leveling bullshit that got added after the game was finished that ruined the gameplay of everything just for these two shitty game modes. What was great about PvZ2's microtransactions was that they did not get in the way of the game. If you loved the game because it was good, you could pay for these plants that were made to be fun plants you could buy that didn't severely affect the gameplay. I don't know who would want to pay for lives and power-ups in this game at all. In conclusion, do I like this game? Yes. Does it have a ton of issues? Very much yes. Will they get fixed and addressed? I don't know. The big takeaway I really got from this game is while I am interested to see how this game will be moving onwards, a part of me can't help but to think the original PvZ3 really wasn't a bad game at all. The problem with it as a whole was they labeled it Plants vs. Zombies 3. If they called it something like Plants vs. Zombies Hometown or just anything with a subtitle name and called it a spin-off in the series, it would have gotten a lot more positive reaction. I actually did enjoy the gameplay of it too. Just needed some producers from the start in a much shorter tutorial, but this beta build of the game was so lackluster that people have gained more interest in the Chinese version of Plants vs. Zombies 2's upcoming world at the time of this recording. I myself am one of those people and will definitely do a video on it. I'm not a PvZ YouTuber, so thank you all for watching. What do you think of the PvZ3 beta? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give a like and subscribe to the channel for more essays and let's plays, and I will see all of you in the next video. Bye bye!